Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Mark Henry. I'm a senior engineer here at Open-AudIT's North American office located in Charlotte, North Carolina. Today, we're going to be deviating from what our normal webinar format is, which is usually about training users and providing background information about Open-AudIT products. Today, we're actually going to talk about some future functionality. So like all future pieces, all non-release functionality, I can't guarantee that these features will be in a future release of Open-AudIT, although it's looking pretty good right now. So Open-AudIT's current version is version 2.2.7, and as of today's webinar, which is November 13th, 2018, we're looking to be doing a release numbered 2.3.0. The two features I'm most excited about in the 2.3 release is looking to be cloud auditing and visual racks. These are the pieces that we're going to be talking about today. So for those of you who are joining us in the live GoToWebinar today, we will be sending you the recording, so you'll get an email after the webinar with a link to the recording. If you have any questions, please use the GoToWebinar Q&A panel to send your questions in. I've got an engineer here on standby who will be flagging me down and passing questions to me during the webinar. When the webinar ends, or if you happen to leave early, please complete the exit survey. It's just 3 questions, but it helps us determine what we do for webinars in the future. And we're actually laying out our plans for webinars in January, February, and March right now. So we're paying close attention to the exit survey results as always. If you found our webinar on YouTube, please come to the Open-AudIT.com website and you can get a PDF copy of this webinar with all of the links and all of the content in it. And of course, if you're on the GoToWebinar, you can look at the handouts window in the GoToWebinar panel. The handouts panel will have the download for the PDF for today's presentation in it. So topics for today. Really, it's going to come down to just a handful of pieces here, right, as we talk about these 3 new features. So we're going to talk about why it's important to maintain a full and accurate inventory of your IT equipment. We're going to talk about the steps needed to build and maintain your data center in Open-AudIT's new visual rack system. We're also going to talk about how Open-AudIT can quickly and easily audit your Amazon and Microsoft Azure cloud instances. So how do these marry back to Gartner's IT service management maturity model? So whether you're talking about the visual racks piece or the cloud auditing, it comes down to starting really with understanding what your full inventory is, right? So not just what's on your LAN, what's on your WAN, hardware that you own that you're responsible for, but also what you have on the cloud, and also understanding where that equipment is. So it's one thing to understand the kind of the street address, the building, even the floor and the room number. It's another thing entirely to get you down to a specific rack location. So the new visual racks and clouds features will cover those. It'll also help reinforce your automation, your mature problem configuration change asset management, and get you well into IT as a service provider and into integrated processes. So if you have questions, we've already started to publish a lot of the wiki pages in support of the new Open-AudIT clouds auditing and visual racks. So if you come to the Open-AudIT wiki on the Open-AudIT community board, the Open-AudIT wiki already has good content for those. If you have any questions at all, of course, you can use the community questions board. If you're on Open-AudIT now and you have a question regarding any of these features, feel free to send them into support@open-AudIT.com. We'll be happy to answer those. And if you like what you see and you're interested in getting a quote from one of our salespeople, you can reach out to our sales group at USA@open-AudIT.com. If you're outside the North American region, feel free to email Open-AudIT or USA@open-AudIT.com, and we'll do an introduction to your regional account manager and sales team. So where does this solution fall in? It's important to understand that while Open-AudIT comes in 3 versions, so it's available in a free and open source community edition. There's a professional edition, which is a licensed commercial upgrade from community, which gives you features like scheduling and a lot of automation. These pieces, visual racks and cloud auditing, will only be available in Open-AudIT Enterprise. So you must be on the Enterprise track in order to have those two new features once they are released. So a quick background of Open-AudIT itself. So Open-AudIT is an agentless device discovery and auditing solution. You simply provide it sets of credentials. You provide it either a series of subnets for it to audit or some AD controllers to connect into, and Open-AudIT will walk down that list of IP addresses. It'll interrogate each IP address, determine what type of device is there, and then depending on the type of device, it will actually deploy the most appropriate auditing script to audit that device. And when I talk about device, we're really talking about everything that's on your network today. So it's all your network type devices, right? Routers, switches, hubs, firewalls, load balancers, all those types of kind of traditional networking equipment, whether they're actual hardware or software defined units. It'll also audit all of your servers and workstations, right? So we're talking AIX, ESXi, HP, Linux, all of your different distributions, the Unix platforms, Mac OS, Sun Solaris, and Windows platforms, starting with Windows 98 and Windows NT 2000, moving all the way to the most recent releases. Open-AudIT will also hit up pretty much anything that has an IP address that will respond. So we'll see VoIP devices, we'll see cameras, we'll see heating and air conditioning units. Open-AudIT will be able to audit your Linux employee time clocks. If it's on your network, Open-AudIT can see it and can audit it. An important piece with Open-AudIT that really differentiates us from a lot of other auditing platforms that are out there is the concept that Open-AudIT is flexible enough to handle any kind of network configuration and security configuration you have, including air-gapped networks. So we do an awful lot of work with government and federal contractors who have air-gapped networks, have zero internet access, have zero connectivity to other networks within the organization, and yet they want to be able to audit that network and then gather the results of that audit and upload it or add it to kind of a master database, so they have a single reference point, a single point of view of their entire network, and Open-AudIT will support all of that. Another key piece for Open-AudIT, whether you're installing the Open-AudIT auditing server onto a laptop and walking to a client site, joining it to their domain and auditing their network from that laptop, or whether you're doing kind of a multi-site, multi-nation, multiple location deployment, and you're doing 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 device audits, Open-AudIT has an architecture solution that can scale from those really small mom and pop auditing solutions all the way up to multinational deployments. So a little bit about the kind of the background and concepts for Open-AudIT. Open-AudIT includes, it's a full service CMDB. We sometimes refer to it as a lightweight content management database. It has all the bells and whistles that you would look for in kind of an enterprise solution, but it has it in a way that makes it easy for everyone to get their arms around and use it. So you don't have to be a networking person. You absolutely do not have to be an engineer or a computer programmer to deploy and use Open-AudIT. It's designed for everyone to get their arms around. It'll help you out keeping track of devices right from procurement. So you can actually add devices to the system as you buy them. You can add vendors to the system. You can add your vendor purchase orders to it and keep track of devices. So we had a question pop up. Oh. So Tim asked a question. So Tim asks, so far this talks about IP addresses within a known network. Can one deploy to manage a client site from our own server across multiple networks? The answer to that is yes. So you still need to know enough about the network to understand what its kind of basic topology is. but you can use subnet masks. So whether your subnet mask is a /24 or /16, a /12, even a /8, you can audit very, very large networks without really having to understand much about their actual structure. Of course, obviously, it's much faster if you can audit smaller subnet groups like /24s rather than doing large /16s or /12s. And so it can be much faster. But again, if you're using AD controllers, you can actually connect to the AD controller, and the AD controller will report back a list of all the subnets that it manages. So Open-AudIT can handle keeping track of your procurement, helping you out with deployment. So as you move something from receipt on your dock, you configure it, you can audit it on your test workbench, you can deploy it out into the field and audit it again and update that existing device record. It'll help you with audit and compliance. So it'll handle your discovery and inventory auditing once it's out in the field. It'll do your audit and compliance work when it's out there as well. And it will help you with retirement and disposal. So once your device has gone through its life cycle and you're saying, okay, I'm going to take it from production now to retired, you can actually move those statuses around. You can keep the device, you can put it on a shelf. You can actually do a manual physical audit with a barcode scan if you need to at that point, if you can't audit it as a live powered up device anymore. So a bit of differentiation here in the 3 versions. So going kind of left to right, you've got the Community Edition, the Professional Edition, which adds interactive dashboards, geographical maps, the ability to export devices from the system. It adds interactive scheduling for both discoveries and reporting, and it gives you enhanced reports, including time-based, historical, and multi-reporting. So the Professional Edition adds those 5 major feature points. You can see that the Enterprise Edition adds a significant amount more, and we've actually highlighted the 2 new features, visual racks and cloud auditing. So just a rough concept. Again, there are many different ways to deploy Open-AudIT out in the field. You can do it a single server instance, auditing your entire network, as long as that single server can hit all of your devices and can see those devices, can see those subnets, and can audit those subnets, you're fine. You can do a multi-server implementation where you have what we have collector servers deployed out remotely throughout your field, and they could be covered geographically, covered logically within each data center. We even have clients who deploy multiple collectors. So you might have a DMZ zone, like a PCI DSS zone, where you put one collector inside the zone to audit within the zone, and then push the results out. That's often allowed by your auditing teams, by security auditors, to have information leave the DMZ as long as the audit doesn't have to go into it. So you can put a collector inside the DMZ and then one outside it. The collector outside the DMZ handles everything else that's not within the, for example, PCI DSS DMZ area, one collector inside the DMZ, and then both of those report back to the same master server. That way you have that kind of, all your management is handled at the master server level. You control all of your auditing, all of your scheduling at the master server level, but the collectors logically reside wherever they need to. And again, that's a feature of Open-AudIT Enterprise, the ability to scale horizontally and vertically as well. All right, so enough about background information. So can we discover, so this is another question that came in. Can we discover external IPs on AWS and Azure? Yes, absolutely. We're actually going to demonstrate that in about 10 minutes once we get to that point and we start talking about cloud devices. So let's talk about visual racks. Visual racks is a new feature that we're looking to release here in potentially in Open-AudIT 2.3. It's going to allow you to take the kind of location of the device rather than down to the room level, which you are able to do now, and take it all the way down to a position within a rack. You'll actually be able to define your racks, be able to define how large the rack is, how many RU and height it is, what room it's located in, what location that room's located on, what floor that room is, and then assign each of your devices to positions within the rack and do it in a visual metaphor, as you can see here. So let's skip over to the racks option now. So this is Open-AudIT Enterprise 2.3. Again, just one more caution. These are features that you're seeing here today that are in pre-release. These are all in beta right now. So we can't speak to whether they absolutely will make it into the 2.3 release, although it's looking very likely. So manage racks, list racks. So we have 3 racks that we've already defined in our system today. We have a rack here in the Charlotte office. It just happens to be a half rack height. We have a major rack here in our building in Brisbane, Australia. And let's take a look at what that looks like. So down the left-hand side, we have the definitions of the rack itself. So you'll notice that we've given it lots of predefined kind of definitions here. Manufacturer, model, series, serial number, asset tag, asset number, barcode, etc. What row position the rack is located in. Some people define their rack locations as pods. So what pod or what group of racks this one might be assigned to. We have options for physical height, width, depth, weight, both empty and current, as well as weight max, and BTU total and max usage. Now, BTU total and max, we are cognizant of the concept that we want to automate filling that in the future. That will not be part of release 2.3, but we are looking at the concepts of can we calculate the total amount and maximum amount of BTUs produced by the rack at some future point. And then keeping track also of power circuits, power sockets, and circuit counts. So you have all of that available information. Down the center, you actually have the rack visualization itself. So you actually have graphical representations of devices. We will ship with some kind of standard graphics, and you can see some down here in the middle of the rack. You can see some kind of graphical icons down here, but you can also take photos of your devices and upload your photos. So you can take pictures of your devices and add them in here if you'd rather do that. Down the right-hand side, you can see a full list of all of the racks, all of the devices rather, that are in this rack, the position they take up, and how high, how many U's in height each of those devices are. You can also access a lot of this information by simply clicking the details button associated with each device. So you can see that mid-guard is a switch, and I can click on details and quickly drill into the details of that device as well. And I can easily add a new device here. So if I want to add a new device, pardon, there we go. So for example, I can search for an existing device. All right. There we go. Let's try mid-guard. There we go. So we have a device named mid-guard. I can assign it to a rack. I'm going to give it a position, and I'm going to make it 2U in height, and we'll add that down. And so now I can come down, and we've got our new position down here. It already has a graphic that's assigned to it. And so I can see that it's a switch, and again, I can see the details, and we can drill into the details of that device. Like all pre-release beta software, sometimes features don't work quite as expected. So the details button will bring you to the device details until that's working. Let's drill into it from this direction, hardware device. And so for example, if I want to look at mid-guard, I have mid-guard, and we've added a new option here on the summary left, rack details. So you can see that I have it assigned here to the Automantic rack in position 6, and it is 1U in height. So if you assign a device multiple times to a rack or across multiple racks, it'll only show the first assignment to that device. We're actually working on the logic now so the devices can't be in 2 places at one time. So you'll be seeing that in the final version. Again, this is simply pre-release beta software. If you're interested in working with us and giving us some feedback, we're looking for beta testers now. So please feel free to email us at beta@opmantic.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to get your opinion on this and some feedback on how we can improve the quality of the product. Taking a look at another device. Let's pick a device here. Let's say crash and burn. Now, crash and burn has not been assigned to a rack yet, so I do not have the rack option here under my summaries. But if I look under location, I can actually pick a rack from here and assign it to a rack. So that'll bring me directly to the racks as well. So I can both start from the position of a rack and add a device to it and put it in a specific position, or I can start from the location of a device's details and say, I want to assign this device to a rack, and then add that device to it. And so we might say, we're going to add it to the test rack. And so I could search for an existing device. We'll search for crash, and we see we have several. We have crash, burn, win, and crash and burn. It's going to be in position 1, and it's going to be 1 U in height. Someone's created a device that has, or a rack rather, that has 0 height. So we do have logic here. So there's 0 used, 0 free in the test rack. So we'll make that 42 U in height. Now we should be able to add a device to it. And there we go. Now we have a device here, and I can add an image to this device. Again, we're going to come with a small inkling of options here. So I'm going to pick that device. Whoop. Now, currently, once you pick an image, it returns you back to the device itself rather than to the rack. Again, we're working on the workflow for each of these pieces. You can see now that we have 2 U's are used, 40 U are free in the test rack, and we have our new image here. All right, so let's take a quick look at AWS and Azure Cloud Auditing. So currently, we're looking at being able to audit both Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure cloud deployments. This functionality will only be available in the Linux deployment of Open-AudIT Enterprise with the 2.3 release. We do plan on adding it into the Windows version at some future release, but it's going to take a bit of custom development on our end as far as the supporting the APIs go. We're also looking at adding in the ability to handle Google Cloud Auditing as well. We don't have a release assigned to that yet, although it's probably going to be either 2.3.2 or 2.3.4. So it'll be 1 or 2 releases down the pike. So cloud auditing will be scheduled like network discovery. You'll be able to, or the system rather, will create locations directly from Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure. So we will actually poll the APIs to create a list of potential data centers and their locations, and then add devices to those. So the plan is to also map those data centers out. So if you're using the Google Maps capability in Open-AudIT, you'll be able to see those data centers graphically and see which data centers have devices in it. we're currently including a couple of custom dashboards and several custom reports for cloud computing. So let's take a look at that as well. So leaving racks, if we take a look at, we have a new menu option now, view. So we have a new clouds dashboard. So just like the other dashboards, we're going to focus in specifically by types of cloud devices, devices per cloud, devices by cloud network, devices by cloud region, instance type, etc. So we're going to break things down geographically as well as logically. You can support auditing as many different cloud networks as you want to. So even though we're supporting just Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure, you might have multiple accounts with each of those service providers. So you can actually add in multiple audits just as you would auditing multiple subnets. So discover clouds, list clouds. So your first step is to create a new cloud instance, and we can take a look at an AWS one, for example. And if we look at the details, so you have the basics, a name, what organization owns that cloud account. You can provide it with a description. That's optional, obviously. The type is either Amazon or Azure. You need to be able to provide, at least with Amazon, both the credentials key and the credentials secret key. And we've included information on our wiki on how to pull this information from the administrator accounts from both Amazon and from Azure. So once you've completed this information, you're simply running an audit on that device. And if we take a look back at the summary page, devices retrieved by the API, 15. So we have a full list now of all devices, and each of these are then audited one at a time. You can see that we're pulling back good information from most of these. We didn't have full credential sets. The basic workflow process is, though, is that you add the cloud information, the cloud account information. Then Open-AudIT Enterprise will connect to the API for that instance. It'll apply the credential set. It'll pull back a list of all available locations. It'll pull back a list of all available networks, and then it will pull back a list of all available devices on each of those subnets. Once that is done, it closes down the API connection and then treats the list of devices just as if they were a list of individual subnet or device scans inside Open-AudIT, and it will audit each of those individual devices one at a time. The nice thing, though, is that all of these devices are now available to me, which means that they can report back in through any of my reports. So we will have multiple types of reports. So for example, cloud device details. So we can pull that back. You'll see that we have it down here under clouds type. So we do have one Microsoft device coming back from Azure. It's a very small deployment of one server, but we have all of our Amazon devices coming back as well. So you can, again, break these out by location. You can break them out by cloud name, cloud type, the instance that the device is located in, the system IP assigned to it, and the system name. Just like any other discovery, you can schedule these. So if I go to schedule discoveries, I can create a new discovery, and I can make it of type, cloud. And then it gives me a list of the cloud discoveries that I've defined. So just like defining any other discovery, subnet discovery, you would define a schedule for a cloud discovery of a specific cloud instance that you've added into the system. And then whatever date and time cadence you want to be able to audit this on, it'll go back, it'll reconnect via the API, it'll pull back a new list of available locations, a new list of available networks, and a new list of devices by network, and then start auditing each of those devices one at a time and adding them into the system. We've got another question that came up. So Matt's asking, he's saying that he's seeing some new features and some new buttons. Yes, you're absolutely right. So you'll notice that we're moving to more icons over here in the top right-hand corner. For example, the export, the create, the filter, the help. These have all been moved now from labeled text buttons to graphical icons. We've also added the ability to immediately drill in from a cloud discovery directly into the list of devices. And we're looking to add this into the regular as well. So it's not just executing details, but you can actually get to the full list of devices just by clicking the devices icon from there. So we're adding in with the hopefully with the 2.3 release, much more cross-referential kind of process. The ability to access information and lists much more quickly from a lot more areas. So rather than so much of our functionality standing as isolated features, you can move from one piece to another back and forth much more quickly. And of course, we'll be focusing on that through the 2.3 release orchestrations and on into 2.4 as well. All right, so that concludes our quick overview of the brand new visual racks and cloud auditing here in Open-AudIT. Again, this is version, we're looking at version release 2.3.0. We're hoping that it will be out before Christmas. We had targeted late November, but we're getting such great feedback now from our beta testers that we're really looking to ramp up the features and the usability in the system and, of course, squash the few bugs. As you've noticed today, there are a few things that popped up even during the presentation. So we're looking to squash all those, have a very solid release for everyone. If you're interested in participating in the beta, we'd love to hear from you. So you can reach out to us again at beta@augmantic.com. You can also feel free to email me directly, markh@augmantic.com. Happy to help you out, answer any questions that you have. And I thank you very much for your time. I look forward to seeing you again at a future Augmantic webinar. Thank you.